Hello, everyone. Welcome to our evening show, Technical Difficulties. We welcome to another episode of Neutral Zone Unmasked. And we have two special guests that we're going to introduce in just a little bit. One of them you may not necessarily know, but you certainly know his artwork. And if you look behind me, you can see that he's been involved in many different, not just Disney animation movies. He's also been involved in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Well, he's also been involved in special effects for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And we will introduce you to Philo Barnhart in just a moment. But the first thing is, just as a reminder, please, if you have any questions, write them in on Facebook, and we will be happy to read those on the air as time permits. And also, if you look behind me at the top, you'll see a link. And I've posted it in as many social media places as I possibly could. But if you would like to purchase one of the prints you see behind me and have it personalized and autographed by Philo, you're more than welcome to do that. And our friend, as a matter of fact, Alan Anderson, has already gone ahead and done that. So first, thanks to Philo for being with us. And Philo, welcome.
Thank you.
So just for the folks who may not know quite who you are, maybe you could give us a background on on your family and their involvement with Disney and animation, and also how you got involved and what's brought you to this point in your career.
Well, sure. I'd be happy to. My parents were both young people during World War II, so they were what you might call the greatest generation. That's how they're referred to anyone that was alive at that time. And they met each other at Disney Studio in 1944. And my mother only worked there until her first child was due, and then she finished up what she was doing on Song of the South, and that was her last film for a while she started our family. My father continued on through the 50s and did many movies and goofy shorts, things like that. A lot of short films, as a matter of fact, beyond goofy. And most of the major animated films and some of the live action ones too, he would do storyboards. And I came along while he was still working on Sleeping Beauty, which took them 6 years of production time. So I was born in 57. The movie came out in 59. And was way too young to see the movie when it came out in 59. It would have terrified me. So the thing is that I got interested when I was about 11 years old to maybe try animation on my own. And of course, I had to consider it might be too lofty an ambition because they weren't about to hire a kid at that point. So I did, however, see a film called Yellow Submarine, which really piqued my interest about the other ways that animation could be done, the other styles, and that renewed my interest again. So when I was through high school and ready to really consider doing something with art, I thought, maybe now. So I went to the studio and talked to the personnel head, and I was still underage, but he gave me a lot of good ideas for what you needed to bring in your portfolio, and that was a lot of life drawings and things. So I thought, well, it's still too lofty an ambition, so I went to school at UCLA and studied graphics for advertising and product development. And then my father came home to dinner one time and said, Hanna-Barbera, which is where he was working then, was starting a training session 2 nights a week to train people in the art of in-betweening. That's the people that supply the drawings that are between the extremes that the animator makes. And they're the people that finish the scene, make it screen ready. So I started studying there 2 nights a week and continuing to study at UCLA. Then they hired all 30 of us out of the class. So I literally dropped out of school and kept going throughout the industry and learned everything I needed to know. First about television animation, and then after that, feature animation. So
Interesting. I would assume you might consider yourself a second generation Disney, and I'm going to use the word legend because I'm looking behind me, and I can certainly see your contributions. And you're working now with Silver Phoenix Entertainment.
yes.
What would you consider? I don't know if it's your favorite work that you've done or worked on, or favorite character. What do you feel has been your most important contribution?
Well, there's 2 movies that really stand out for me, and they're 2 that I really learned a lot on. And that was firstly Secret of NIMH back in 1982. And that was right after I worked on Star Trek the Motion Picture and learned what I could about effects. And that was very fascinating because we didn't have CG at our disposal. So everything was hand done back in those days. So Secret of NIMH, I learned about how timing is done for feature-length animation, the Disney style. And the first sequence they threw at me was the Great Owl. As you probably already know, sequences are done out of order, just like they are in live action. But in live action, it's probably because of they only have the location for a certain amount of time. For animation, it's different in that we take 3 sequences that are the strongest, that we consider the strongest, and we do those first. So we started with the Great Owl sequence. And I learned all kinds of timing for how the characters should move, and secondary motions, which are like pieces of clothing and fur that moves in a secondary fashion. It's all the laws of cause and effect type of thing, and makes the characters more real for your audience if you have little subtle things like that in there. Also, the fact that when a character starts moving against a background, you automatically do 1 frame for 1 drawing, which eats up a lot of drawings. But the standard is 2 drawings, or 1 drawing rather, for every 2 frames. So there was that, and then Little Mermaid was like the height of my career because I got to design characters again. Starting with Ursula, she was my first assignment, and started to exercise my theory of using formulas for drawing characters so that everyone could get a hold of them and draw them consistently. And that requires building the character out of simple shapes. So I started to delve into that again, and it was great fun. And then right after that, Dan Haskett joined us from New York, and I was able to start on Ariel. So those were 2 standout productions for me.
So I think any of us who are familiar with cartoons and animation and know a little of the history, and I will confess, I grew up with those kind of movies, but obviously animation has changed over the years. Certainly today, where most of it is CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still work in, hand images, or have you subscribed to CGI?
I personally work still with hand drawn. I am very excited to see what they, by they I mean a few of the studios in America, but mostly in Japan and France. They're doing wonderful things that are considered hybrid animation, where they're either taking puppets and combining that with CG, or they're doing hand-drawn traditional with CG. And a couple of examples of that are Disney's Paperman, the recent Klaus that was done for Christmas time on Netflix, I believe. Sergio Pablo, I believe is his name, is the director. And they found a way to make hand-drawn animation look like it's rendered in CG. And that it has a certain amount of dimension. And the characters are very stylized. It's very exciting to see that. From France, films like The Triplets of Belleville, Sylvain Chomet's film, and also his follow-up, oh my gosh, I'm gonna blank out. It's the one about the magician, The Illusionist, thank you, which was based on a Jacques Tati screenplay that was written around the time I was born in '57, the famous French comedian. So it was a story about his relationship with his estranged daughter, and it made a beautiful animated film. It's very moving. I used to show it to my students, and they would dissolve into tears by the end of the film. So it's gives people an emotional experience that they can't always get in a live action film. It's funny how that works, but that's where I think the CG really works well. Otherwise, the program really can't differentiate from studio to studio. So a lot of people get confused. They think that maybe Shrek came from Disney because they all use the same programs. So the characters look slightly similar, you know. So I think it's great that they're combining hand-drawn with the computer. And it goes back to telling a good story too. You can animate any format you want, as long as your story's great.
You know, back in your parents' day, Disney was known for doing these amazingly realistic human characters until we found out the secret that they were filming live characters and then drawing over them. Now we've got motion capture with dots all over everybody. What's the better animation?
Oh, well, motion cap is very interesting because a lot of people have been pushing that art form. If you want to call it an art form, I think it is. It's a graphic art form. The film from France, Renaissance, I think it's the studio's one and only film. They just formed the studio to make that one film and then disappeared, but it's very unique. It's black and white, highly graphic, like looking at a comic book. Characters are very graphic style with deep shadows to describe their features, and very exaggerated faces and bodies. And they have motion capture actors. It's like a comic book come to life. It's pretty amazing. It's just that the story lost a lot of people. So it's both in French and English. You can pick the version you want. And so it's a different kind of animation, but for someone like me, there's no fun in that for me because I like the hands-on, playing God for a few minutes and bringing something to life on your own. But the thing about reference footage at Disney and some of the other studios was it's not a crutch, but an assistance to help you come up with pieces of business for the character that you might not think of. If you're not skilled in performance art yourself, it's good to see an actor portraying the character, and then you can cartoon it up. You're not literally tracing off the animation, though they have done that sometimes. Ralph Bakshi's films, they literally trace right off the frames of film, and the only thing they really cartoon up are the faces usually. But Disney always pushed it just a little farther. So there's a lot of footage in their archive of actors for playing the parts, but it looks totally unlike what finally ends up on screen. So,
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I remember, being that I'm a Sleeping Beauty fan, watching the behind the scenes of the one when they released it on DVD finally. They had a bunch of scenes where they were videotaping the artist drawing whoever was playing Aurora. And then I remember seeing it on The Lion King, I think, even.
right. Right, that's right. I know that Helene Stanley, she was a standard reference model for them. She did a lot of the dancing for many characters, Cinderella and Aurora. Especially the dancing when the prince and the princess had to dance. There's just, there's so much about the proportions of the figures as they turn around each other that's difficult for an artist to get a hold of. So that really helps, is to film people actually dancing together, and just use a few frames as reference, not tracing it verbatim. But yeah, there's a lot of instances where you just have to have something there to help you.
You know, I collected cells, my wife and I, for many, many, many years. I have to say, I have a handful left, but we used to really be active. And one of the things I recall, and then having read about Disney, was they came up, and forgive me because I don't know the right terms any longer, but they came up with the idea of having glass plates, and they would put the foreground and the background on the plates,
Oh, yes.
put the animation in the middle, and
Right.
give it that look that it was actually going through a forest.
Right, that's the multiplane camera.
Multiplane
And,
camera.
Probably the biggest shot they ever did was the opening of Bambi, where the camera appears to move through the forest, and it gets deeper and deeper into the forest. And those were at least 8 layers of glass with paintings of trees on them. Nothing but trees. There was one layer with the animated waterfall, and then the birds flying in the foreground that was closest to the camera, so they could come in and out of focus naturally as the camera moved. You know, it's focused downwards. But that actually was vertical, and it had a staircase going up both sides, and they had assistant crew members on each station. they would move the art in either direction that the cameraman asked them to. So it just took hours to shoot, you know, just one scene like that. It's on the screen for a few seconds. So, but what an effect. Now it's much easier to achieve that using the like Disney's CAP system, which we used starting on Rescuers Down Under. So Mermaid and Roller Coaster Rabbit were the last 2 films that we painted by hand. And we moved to the CAP system right after that.
Oh, Ashley's right on it.
Yeah, that stands for Computer Assisted Paint System, CAPS for short. And we were able to achieve multiplane camera effects by doing all our art flat as usual and having the computer break up the layers and time them out and move them dimensionally so that they would go out of focus as they got closer to the viewer, and so on. And the moon and the sun would stay back where it needed to be instead of moving forward with everything else.
So we see some of the animation work in the background that Ashley is displaying and showing the
Right.
live actor versus what you would have seen on screen. So it's very fascinating.
Right. Well, we take that live action and we push it just a little more. And Milt Kahl did all these scenes of the prince you're seeing here. And he was not thrilled to animate the character, believe it or not. After he got a hold of him, he found him kind of dull. But, and the same for Peter Pan, believe it or not. He found him to be kind of an odious task after he figured out his lack of gravity in his flying. And once that was done, he got kind of bored with the character. But my God, it's beautiful though. So you never know how these people are feeling about what they're doing, but they did a beautiful job.
Well,
It's really
sir-
intriguing. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dan.
It's really intriguing to watch what Ashley has put up right now. In the motion cap world right now, they're running around on green screen, up and down sets that aren't there, looking not unlike or dissimilar to the same actors in this black and white reference footage, running up and down things, and then they were being used as the basics to draw them.
Exactly the same, new technology. Yeah, and they really, a lot of people only use the motion cap sparingly. You can still create keyframes on your own, but it's akin to manipulating a puppet for a stop motion animation than it is to do what I do, which is, drawing it on paper, one at a time.
So I'm going to just jump to something that I found fascinating when I met you originally. And that's maybe a little bit, and we actually did have a couple of people ask questions online about your involvement in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
That's right.
Maybe you could tell us how you got involved. Bob Kinney would like to know how you got involved. And then you told me some stories of how those special effects were really made, which ruined the movie for me, but that's
I'm
okay.
sorry. Well, you used everything at your disposal, including the kitchen sink, as it were, back then, because we had no CG. So we had to be inventive, and sometimes the strangest objects and items were used to achieve that end. And thankfully, you don't have to do that kind of thing anymore, but it was kind of fun to invent things. But I got involved through my friend John Kimball, who is actually Ward Kimball's son. And John's sister is also in the movie industry. She is a costume designer, Kelly Kimball. And she designed some of the ethnic costumes for Raiders of the Lost Ark. And she worked with Lucas and Spielberg often on their films. She also did the costumes for Thriller, Michael Jackson's film. So she worked with those directors quite often. And Thriller was one of her favorite things to do. Getting back to John Kimball, though, I'm digressing. I apologize. We were working for a time at Ruby Spears at the time, he and I. And all of a sudden he disappeared. And the studio told me he'd gone on sabbatical. And so I was asking, where's John? So I get a call from John at my apartment one night. And he says, "Hi, Philo, it's John Kimball. How are you?" I said, "Oh, great. Where are you?" He says, "Well, I'm working on Star Trek, the motion picture for a while." I said, "Come on, you're kidding." "No." He says, "How would you feel about taking a sabbatical and joining us? Judy Niver, Joe McNeil, and myself, we're already here. It would require you taking some time off from Ruby Spears, and also the Paramount guys would need to come and pick up your desks since they don't have animation desks here. So we need to bring your desk to Marina Del Rey, which is where we were making the art." We were all over the map. We were in several buildings at the time. Poor Jeffrey Katzenberg had to drive between all those buildings to get the film done. And he logged more time in his car than he did with us. But I said, "Yeah, is the Pope Catholic? I'll do it." So I got my desk moved out there. They came and picked up my desk and took it out there. And thankfully, I didn't have a car at the time. So my friends, Connie and Max Morgan, were already working there as well. So I hitched a ride with them very early in the morning. And we'd get to Marina Del Rey very early in the morning and get started. So, and since it was the end of the production and they were pushing so hard to get it ready in time, we'd be there all night sometimes. So we started spending the night in there on these huge carpeted stairs on the other side of the building. And we'd set an alarm and wake up and go spell somebody, and they could go take a nap for a while, and we'd keep working on making mats or blobbing film or whatever we had to do. So it was a lot of work. We had to make traveling mats and all kinds of backlit effects, mostly electricity and electrical discharges. We had some real electricity. It was generated by a Tesla coil that was built at John Dykstra's facility in the Van Nuys airport area. And we were way the hell out in Marina Del Rey, so that gives you some idea of how widespread it was. And then there was the Paramount lot where all the sets were. And it was just, it was chaos. But out of that, we managed to get it done. Not all the effects. That came a little later when they allowed some backtracking. I think it was 1999 or 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. They had some people go in and work with Robert Wise and finish some of the effects that we weren't able to do. We didn't know quite how we were going to do them at the time. So, but Charles likes me to tell this story about the wire hanger.
I want you to tell the story about the wire hanger.
Which is how we ended up generating the V'ger cloud in the opening shots of the film. And of course, you see it again later when the Enterprise gets there. But it was supposed to be this cloud that surrounded the thing, and you couldn't really see the object inside because of this cloud layer. So we tried spinning some things and taking stroboscopic photographs of them and turning them into what was called Kodalith cells. That was a Kodak product. They were like celluloids that we do the character animation on, but it was a photo process in that your black line would become clear against what was once white paper becomes the black area. So that's how we did all our electrical discharges and how we ended up doing the cloud as well. We ended up using a wire hanger, just a plain old wire hanger from your closet, and took it apart and untwisted it and then bent it into weird shapes and hung it from a string and put it against a white background, and we spun that thing. Virgil Morano came in, and he was our staff photographer. He came in and photographed stills of it stroboscopically. So you got all these little, cloud fluffy things in a spiral shape, almost like spinning a hula hoop in a stroboscopic photograph. And so they made two of those and backlit them on the animation stand, and then they incrementally pulled those things over each other. So there's a little shimmer going on wherever they intersect those shapes. And now that's how we did it. And to make the color, we just put some color gels in there, purple and blue. And that's how it worked. And it worked. It worked great. Once they get inside the cloud, that was all paintings that were timed out on the animation stand. They would backwind the film in the camera and do another pass until they had these layers of clouds moving, through past the viewer, kind of like the multiplane effect without the multiplane camera. Also, they had real smoke that they dumped over the model. And they did maybe 14 passes of the camera going over the surface of the V'ger model with this arced laser beam, and the smoke would hit that. And that was all done at John Dykstra's facility at the time. We went and watched them shoot, and it was fascinating. They would have to clear the smoke after every take and turn the laser back on and then dump the smoke, turn out the lights, and start over again. So you got 14 passes, and then they would finally do a beauty pass where they lit up the model. And that's what you see on the screen, finally. It looks like hundreds of little cloud shapes swirling around this huge surface.
And here's what's funny. Certainly memories are kind of a strange thing sometimes. So you're telling this story, and I did hear you tell this story once before. Mm-hmm. And as I'm listening to you, I remember sitting in the theater in 1979.
79.
When it opened, I was at a premiere for it. And I remember just being like looking at the screen with the Klingon ship and that cloud in the background. And I was just blown away. And here you are telling the story of a wire hanger.
I know it's absurd, isn't it? But that's the beauty of how they shot those models too. They just looked enormous. The Enterprise looked like a big ocean liner out in space. It was just appeared to be huge. It was actually shorter than the television Enterprise. It was only about 9 feet, and the TV one is 11 feet. It's now, of course, in the Smithsonian, but just amazing. You know, Douglas Trumbull wanted something a little longer. He would have liked something longer, but I think they did a fine job making it look huge anyway with just 9 feet. But,
Without a doubt. And it's
yeah.
become, and it's in itself has become a classic.
That was all due to the great texture they put on that Aztec pattern that they started using on the surface, and also the way they lit it too. They took a bunch of dental mirrors, like the dentists look inside your mouth with, and they shoved them into a tripod, aimed them up at the model, and that got hit with a spotlight instead of them lighting up the model itself. That made a dappled light effect, which made it look even bigger. So it was genius.
Wow. We would have never thought. Never would have thought. We have one I want to introduce, and it's kind of been in the background, but I definitely want to introduce your partner in crime, if I could call him that.
Yeah.
But there's one question that intrigued me related to Star Trek. And that is, would you ever consider, this came from Ed Oborowski, would you ever consider making an animated Star Trek fan film?
Sure, if I had the funds and the time, I would. That's all I would need. I would love to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting that in your head because now it's in my head.
Yeah. No, that would be great fun. There's a lot we could do with that format. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So let me introduce, as I called him, your partner in crime, but his name is Charles, and I know I'm going to get this pronounced wrong, Charles, but is it Moisant?
Very close.
That's
I'm
right.
proud of you. You're impressive.
Well, I wouldn't get carried away, but thank you. I appreciate it.
I call him Moisant.
I'm one fan. Hey, could you imagine if we were on Doctor Who, and if I was Doctor Who and the Master told me to call him Master, you know what I would say? Okay, Mass Turd. What did you say to me, Doctor? I said, yes. Instead of calling you a Time Lord, I think I'm going to call you Mass Turd, the Time Peasant. Oh, I will get you, Doctor. I mean, how funny would that be?
You're still crazy, but that's good. That's good.
I'm driving.
So let me introduce you to everyone. So Charles, believe you're the owner of Silver Phoenix Entertainment, correct?
Wrong.
No?
Nope. My mother owns it. It's 100% female-owned company.
Yes, that's Elizabeth, my son.
Yep. Yeah.
I think I knew that, but I needed clarification. So thanks
Yes,
for
that's
that.
true. You're a double checking because you're a good checker. You're a fact checker.
I am. No fake news here.
No. Just fake boobs. Oh, could you imagine if guys wanted to I want to look fat, so I make fat fake boobs?
I think somebody's done that, but
That's so grotesque.
but you are involved in comic book production. I don't know if that's predominantly what you do, but a comic book production.
Yes, that is true. And I want to pull over. I'm going to give I'll try to put a link on this thing when I'm not driving, because, you know, I'm driving. See, no phone in my hands. I'm driving. Uh-oh. But I did I do educational and horror comics.
It's kind of an interesting mix, isn't it?
Yes. Which is fun.
I know I've seen some of the work that you've done, little snippets of it.
And you always want to run. I know you have my sympathy.
No, I definitely don't want to run. I really want to read it all. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
So
But,
maybe you
yes.
could tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in the comic book industry, and how you are involved with Silver Phoenix.
Okay. Silver Phoenix is my second comic book production company. Years ago, I ended up getting a license for translating Space 1889, the role-playing game, into an animated movie. And I was actually on track to get potential sponsors, backers, things like that, and was going to try to raise 12 million and was starting to get close with promises, things like that. Then a interesting president at the time, the one who was betrayed to his wife, changed the laws. And before, if you were, let's say, X amount of wealthy, and you put your money into a movie or something, let's say you made $1 million.
Charles, you're on mute. Charles, you're on mute. No, we've got Charles on mute. Can we unmute Charles?
I asked him. I don't know if he realized.
Okay, here he is. We've got you back.
Yeah. I had 3 people try to call me. when I mentioned referring to a former president whose wife hates him.
Yeah.
But you know, the one with the secret dress. But as I was saying, he put in what happened was the law used to be that, let's say I made $1 million and you got a movie company and I put $100,000 in your movie company or $200,000. Well, guess what? As far as the IRS was concerned, I didn't make $1 million. I made $800,000, which means I get to go in a different tax bracket. Well, that certain president decided to sign in the law that you don't get that write-off. You don't get that discount. Shame on you. Bad, bad, bad. We need it more than everyone else does, than that poor movie company. So I literally had, within 5 hours of that law being made, lost $12.5 million in investment. So a friend of mine owned a concrete company, said, how much do you have? And I said, about 1,200. He says, just make a comic book. Well, unfortunately, I could not make a comic book out of the property, so I decided to make my first superhero comic book, Kremen, a story of a trans-phase dimensional hopper who would go across realities to save them from temporal destruction. So that was my start. I did fold the company because, unfortunately, my brother had a fatal accident, and I put the money into the funeral instead of continuing the series. And I had other mishaps happen, and I just got out of comic books. Forget it. Years later, because of Katrina, I am taking Omaha, Nebraska route home. Now, flashback to '83, I acted as a mad doctor in the haunted house. I had a purple trench coat, had a great time and everything. Well, 20 years later, I decided, hey, I wonder if that haunted house is still there. It's still there. I walk in, the owner looks up to me, Wayne Sealy, and says, oh my God, Charles, is that you? I go, yes. He still had the purple trench coat and asked if I could put it on and act that night. Well, our friendship rebutted, and he's the one who he's a former Disney animator also. This damn Disney, they keep haunting me. But he ended up training me on how to do caricatures and improved my art immensely. So has Philo, oh my God. But he decided, hey, do a comic book about Mystery Manor. So I'm like, okay. So I did a comic book about Mystery Manor. Did 6 issues. And then somebody else was like, hey, can you do a comic book about addiction and the troubles with it? Okay, so I did a small little piece with that. And then it grew from there, and I did Myth Told Tales, Zombie Annihilation, Blood Feast, and a whole bunch of other horror titles. And then I've been hired recently more and more to do educational titles. For example, History of Police in America. I'm still trying to find funding for it. Unfortunately, the environment is a little hostile to the great, brave men and women who every day risk their lives to keep order in the cities or conflict from within. Always remember, the military protects us from enemies of the state, and the police protect us from conflicts from within. And that's my PSA message. But currently, the free book I'm going to give is a COVID comic book where it's to help children not be afraid of the nasal swab. And it was made for the American Indian Health Services in Chicago. And now I've been asked to possibly make some more educational comics. And another Native American cultural center is reaching out and maybe making culturally significant Native American comics about legends and myths and things like that. And I still do my horror and education. And who knows, maybe you and I, Ray, will be making an amazing comic book on how to use film equipment and make a TV show.
Yes, wouldn't that be interesting? And that is something, let's not let too much of the cat out of the bag, but Charles and I have been talking about that. And I think it's really got some legs.
Secrets.
With animated titles by Philo.
Yes. And belly dancers by Ashley. And you can have a guy belly dancer too because of the weirdos.
Right. I think Dan, you're gonna have to say something so we can see you on screen. But that's a caricature of you, is it not?
Well, when we had one of our recent events at the studio, and I was lucky enough to go to dinner, and a certain man who's driving right now was sitting right opposite me, so you can be guaranteed in between the sushi and everything else and wasabis. We had fun, and then he drew this
Very good.
on the napkin, which I've had since then. So thank you.
Yes. And you know what? Because you've had it so long, it's no longer a sanitary napkin.
I'm turning the mute button on right now. There we go.
That's all.
You might have some of Charles's DNA on there, so you never know.
No, it was my napkin. It was my napkin.
Oh, okay.
How did my DNA get on it? Oh boy.
You're driving. Be careful.
Yes, sir. I almost get excited now.
Oh boy. Some fun now.
Oh dear.
You know, the only thing I miss is Philo didn't tell the story about the seashell brazier.
Oh gosh.
But it's not his turn, so he can't tell you about it.
Well, we're gonna have to put that on the background for just a second then. But
Yeah.
Yes.
I did find the photo from that day, Dan, of all of us having dinner and Charles drawing the character version of you.
Yes, on the DNA soaked napkin.
See if I can
DNA
pull-
soaked.
Yes. Wait, that sounds really bad.
yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but okay.
Oh, God bless us all.
But I just want to mention to the folks that are online. There we go. I certainly remember that. There's two handsome devils down in the background there.
Yeah, the name is Mick Menonez and Ashley.
Yes.
And that nice goth girl. Who's like somebody's amazing daughter.
Monica's going to love that one.
Yeah, she's the reason why the word hot was created. You're too too long, you go blind. But you enjoy it.
Oh, Charles. But I do want to say both Philo and Charles came to one of our fan weekends.
And the first thing you said was like, "Oh my God, he's 1/8 Klingon. Look at that head."
I
So
did say
mean.
that.
You
No,
just
I
mean
wasn't
to me.
mean. I was trying to pay you a compliment. But
Yes, yeah, he made sure to hide me in the back room. He's like, "Here's a couch. Stay here." Okay, tour guide, go past fast.
but these are two of the nicest people you're ever going to want to meet. Very not just I want to say friendly, but just really end up giving of themselves, and it was a terrific. Once all this nonsense that we're going through now passes, we definitely want to have both of you back because.
Really?
Oh yeah, I do.
Wait, and I won't have to sleep under the car this time?
No, we'll put you on the roof.
Woo!
So wait now. So now you've got it while it's in my head. So Philo,
Yes.
what is this? A seashell brassiere?
Oh, it's not a big deal. It's just, well, I actually met Jeffrey Katzenberg on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and neither one of us got a screen credit on the film ultimately, which I understood it was because, you know, my unit was late joining the film. So as per union contract, you don't get a screen credit. So we were all very disappointed, but Jeffrey told me even then, well, if it's up to me, if we work again someday somewhere, I'll make sure you get a screen credit. So lo and behold, we ended up at Disney around the time of Mermaid, and he was again my supervisor. So dailies were every Friday. That's when you get together with everyone in the studio and you watch what you did the previous week on the screen. And sometimes there's very amusing things that show up on the screen. Well, the one time that we had a test ready to go on Ariel with her first chest covering, my friend Dan had animated a set of seashell pasties instead of a brassiere type arrangement. And it got a hell of a reaction from poor Jeffrey, who got up from where he was, all red in the face, and left the theater after that one test. And I thought, oh boy, the poop's going to hit the fan when dailies are over. So sure enough, I went back to my desk. We were still sitting in the hallway then. We hadn't been absorbed into the rest of the building because they were still finishing Oliver and Company in the other half of the building. So we hadn't been moved into any offices yet. And so several of us were in the hallway working. So I heard some voices being raised in the director's room just down the hall. And I knew it must be about that seashell pasties. So then suddenly the voices died down and I heard the door open and there was Jeffrey standing next to my desk. He says, so Philo, what are you doing for lunch today? I said, well, I expect I'm eating my lunch. How about you? He says, no, you're not. I said, okay, I'm not. What's up? He says, well, I'm sure you saw the test about the seashell pasties. I said, oh boy. He says, yeah, we're making white bread here. We can't have independently moving breasts, you know, right and left, to show that there's underwater current. I said, oh dear. Okay, I understand. What I would like you to do, he said, is do a seashell brassiere, if you can, arrangement, and have it ready after lunch. I said, okay, I'll do what I can, and hopefully all will be right with the world. So I spent the lunch doing drawings of her turning like this with her hands over her head. And I even designed a little clasp, which you never see, maybe a couple times, but it was there in case anyone needed it. And I had to be careful because if you have lines meeting or intersecting, it creates a bullseye and you'll end up looking right at.
Hi, Philo's house.
Or you're going by. Bye, see you later. So I got it done and he approved it, and I got to keep my head and everyone got to keep their job, and we went on. When it came time for screen credits, I was going to be left off character design, and I called him in California from Florida, where I was working for the company by then, and reminded him about Star Trek. He says, okay, we need to get you that second credit then. And so I have 2 credits on Little Mermaid, one for character design and one for key assistant animation. You know.
And one for being Mr. Cool Dude.
Well, it's probably the first time a brassiere has gotten somebody credit.
Well, yeah, right. That wasn't all I designed, of course, but um, the thing is, you just have to be careful when dealing with things like that, because he reminded me, we're making white bread. That was his favorite line. And you don't say no to Jeffrey.
I imagine you don't.
But
I
we
imagine
ended up much safer. We ended up using their hair to show that there was underwater current. So we had separate timing charts just for the hair. A lot of animators would just do her bald, make her moving without the hair, and then they'd go back and figure out how the hair was going to move, showing that there was indeed a current underwater. So that's how we worked it out, instead of using the breasts to do it.
That's probably the breast credit anybody's ever got.
Very good, yeah.
So I did find some footage of the live action portion of the drawing, like they did with Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and all the others. I didn't actually think I'd find it, but it's on YouTube actually, and it's pretty amazing how you guys can draw that way.
Right.
I thought we were going to see it.
Oh, I'm putting it on.
All right.
So
I
we'll have a
see.
shell of
Right
a good
scene.
time. We'll have a shell of a good time. Okay.
Oh my!
Hey,
Look
this
at
is
that.
There's Sherry Stoner. That's Sherry Stoner. That's Sherry Stoner in full color.
Yeah, Sherry Stoner is nice.
She there's
I
Glenn
like that.
Keane holding Sherry Stoner. She was a real godsend for us. That's Josh. I can't remember his last name, but he played Prince Eric for us. There was a young man named Max Kirby who played Ursula for Rob Minkoff and myself when I first started on the film. Yeah, so we could get a real improvisational performance for her. And I think that's why everyone thinks that we based her on a drag queen, because we did put him in drag and painted his face up like hers, moosed his hair up, and he went to town. So,
Well, to be
But-
honest, you
but
guys
these
had
actors-
Disney had men playing female roles in the live
Oh,
action.
sure.
Because when I was going through
Sure.
the clips of Sleeping Beauty, they had a guy
Right.
playing
the
one of the kings.
three good fairies are played by men. Yeah, for the most part. I remember seeing that footage when my father showed me some of the stuff. But yeah, so you never know where your inspiration is going to come from, but all those people were so inventive and brought up pieces of business for the characters that we wouldn't have thought of ordinarily, little idiosyncrasies and things, especially Sherry, when she's trying to mime what happened to her for Prince Eric. That's just a riot, I think, even now. I laugh when I watch that stuff. We were also trained by the San Francisco Mime Troupe for 6 hours, 3 hours one night, 3 hours the next, on a soundstage at Disney Studio, to get a feeling for pantomime, because we were going into the second half of the film where she had no voice. So we had to learn how to pantomime ourselves, and therefore we could put it into our characters. So.
You know, how does it feel to see something that you worked on, like The Little Mermaid and the character Ursula and stuff, portrayed in so many different things nowadays? You've got Once Upon a Time, you've got the live action Little Mermaid coming out, you had the recently TV version of the live action, and then you had the Little Mermaid animated series, and then all the new little animated series too with it, or
Right.
movies.
Mhm. How do I feel about them?
How does it make you feel to see that your creation's gone more further than any other Disney animated movie, to be honest, because
Well,
none of them had that many sequels.
It actually took on life immediately after we were finished with it. It just took off on its own. It's like giving birth to a child, and then, it grows and becomes an entity. So that sounds kind of scary, doesn't it? But no, I think it's great. all the versions that have been done on it, and I especially love that TV one that was live recently with Queen Latifah as Ursula. Oh my gosh, she was great as Ursula. I wish they'd put her in the movie version. But
I can't wait to see that one.
yeah, it's going to be different. A lot of people are nervous about that one still, but not me. I think it's a great idea. But it really was the film that finally put Disney animation back on the map. And most of us thought that it would. You know, that's why we were so enthused to just work into the night on it. Plus,
It's funny thinking.
The overtime was terrific.
It's funny thinking about it when I reflect back to my childhood, because I grew up, Little Mermaid was my childhood.
Mhm.
And thinking about a lot of my friends, they always loved The Little Mermaid. Of course, I was different. I like the old classics.
Yeah,
But
me too.
that was
Me
always
too.
on the top of my list.
Me too. And they just weren't making those films anymore. But when Mermaid came along, I jumped on it. Because I said, well, that's the kind of film I wanted to make, like my parents did when they were there.
I think it's harder to appreciate the newer Disney animation
Yeah.
compared to what you, your parents, and several others did, because there was so much detail put in, whereas Pixar's versions nowadays, it's not the same.
No, it's a whole different format, and the stories are still very good. Like I said earlier, your film will work if you've got a great story. So really, you can do it any format you want. A lot of people, I guess erroneously is the word I want to use, felt that people were flocking to these films because they were 3D digitally animated, but no, they had greater stories than the traditional stuff we were doing at the time. The traditional animation, the stories were leaving people cold, or they were just so odd that people were turned off to them.
So I
You know,
don't know.
Philo,
I just wanted to say I don't think anybody could really see it, but Charles stopped driving. I think he stopped in a bookstore.
Oh, I think he's in a comic store that we go to.
Yeah.
Our friend Rick's store, as a matter of fact. That looks like Rick's. He's just down the street from me.
Hey, Rick, say hi. Hello, how are you?
Oh, there's
I'm about
Rick.
your store.
Hi, Rick.
Would you believe this guy Chuck tries walking in there without a mask on? So now I have to give him a mask now. I'm short one more mask. Unbelievable. That's how nice he is. At least he's got one now. Hey, look what I found.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're talking with here's the thing. This is Philo on the other end, right? Well, and a interviewer who owns a Star Trek studio where they actually filmed the fan films at Star Trek. Okay, so this is Rick Here's an idea I got. Yes. Since this year there was no free comic book day, I am thinking sometime in November to do free comic book day online with our website. Yes. People can go on there and get free comics. But yes. I also like to do get some artists and writers and people on there too, and do like a Zoom thing. Yes. So we'll work that out. We can be available.
Sounds fun.
And we can even try to get Ray here of the Neutral Zone. Yeah. Ray owns a cool studio. Like, you ever watch Star Trek? He has a studio identical to what Captain Kirk used to do, and they make new TV shows and stuff. It's amazing. I'll show you later. So that was Rick Manzella of One Step Comics. Everybody cheer him on.
Yay! Thanks, Rick. I'm all in.
Go, Rick.
I'm all in.
Why? I can see you. Yeah, but they can't see you. They just see your hand. I don't care if they can see me. Who wants to see me anyway? I don't know. My wife, I guess, because she wants me to make dinner. That's who wants to see me. But it's all right, because I love to cook. No, actually, tonight we're doing leftovers. She called to see which leftovers I wanted. And I told her, eat whatever, and I'll just come home and clean the fridge with my belly. Yes. You know, that's usually the way I do it. But I'm glad you sound happy over there. I'm glad you're surviving okay with this pandemic. You know, I'm surprised some people aren't careful enough, and some people are too careful, I think. But But yeah, but we're trying to. Well, I don't know about you, Chuck. When I figure it out, I'll let you know. You know, but no, as far as I know, you know, you're all right. But how come you don't have a mask always with you? Yeah, I was involved with talking with these guys. So where's your mask in the car? Yes, I forgot. Well, you could have went out and got it. All right, who knows? All right. Well, can they see me? Or they could see me, or they can't see me. I don't know. Yeah, can't see me. I don't know what to do. All right. Masks. Hey, thanks again, Rick. Everybody, cheer Rick.
Hey, Rick. Well, the biggest thing I got out of that is I think I'm going to be in a free comic book day in November.
Yes.
And now we know that Charles's nickname is Chuck. So
yes, that is true.
You are forever Chuck.
Oh no. No. His name ain't Chuck. It's Up
As long
Chuck.
as he's not Chuck Norris.
No, his nickname is Up Chuck.
Up Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say it. What's up, Chuck?
Eamon calls him Chucky.
There you go. That's over for me.
So just trying to get back on track here of some
Oh,
sort.
yeah. Well, hey, it's comic books. Well, guess what? I'm making board games too.
I know. I want you to talk about that. And then we wanted to go back to Charles and talk about some things that he's working on now as well. So why don't you talk about the board game?
Okay. Working on a board game called Outer Planet Panic. Okay. Where everybody works together to eventually stab each other in the back. Yes, sir. And what we've done is we've done the book in an old 1960s style, like as if it was done by Jack Kirby. So it's really cool stuff.
It's
And
also in black light.
Yes, it's all the colors are going to be fluorescent, and we're just making it as amazing as possible. The other thing that's fun is there's some people who are helping with making figures for the game too. So I have to put a loud shout out and say thank you, friend, for helping with the stuff on the game. So that's what's happening.
Well,
So basically, with Outer Planet Panic, or go ahead and ask questions instead of letting me ramble.
yeah.
What about Cockerel's Fist, Charles?
Oh, the Cockerel's Fist. That's my fantasy adventure comic book, and I'm also developing a board game about that. So it's basically a dungeon exploring game where you'll battle evil beasts, creepy monsters, and things like that. And it's also going to be an amazing fluorescent color too. By the way, thank you for being brilliant. Yes, you're on the cool list. All right, I'm going to leave the comic shop now.
Okay.
Hey, do you want the mask back, Rick? Oh, thank you.
I
Hey, how do I
wouldn't
open
take
this?
it. If I was Rick, I wouldn't take it.
Lord.
So I'm gonna try to ask a question.
Oh, wait,
So-
you're allowed that?
So Philo,
Yes.
Of course, yes.
So
fine.
I understand. Well, you're working with Charles or Silver Phoenix Entertainment
That's true.
these days,
Yes.
and you're working on a couple of projects. One of them is called Whispers from the Void,
Yes.
and also an animated short called Beasties. Can you tell
That's
us a little about
actually
that?
with our musical writer friend Gary Summers. Gary's been dabbling with his show since around the mid '80s or so, and he finally got the show to a point where he wants to start really seriously considering it for the stage. And he's recorded several terrific demos. It's like a rock opera, and it's also science fiction. So I was very intrigued. He asked me if I would do animation that would be used as projections during the show. And so I set about designing the 14 main beasties of the title. And they're like alien entities that represent human emotions like anger, love, empathy, even human conditions like narcissism and sympathy and other things. So there's good beasties and bad beasties. And so I'm having a lot of fun doing that. Right now, I'm only doing them chanting one word over and over again. But
It's a cult.
that should be turned into a video pretty soon to advertise what we're doing.
Love to see that. Love to see that.
Yeah,
It's a
well-
very interesting concept.
It'll probably be on Facebook when he posts it. So I'll make sure that everyone sees it. Yeah.
Oh,
And that's Beasties.
Beasties, that's the musical.
Okay.
Sci-fi rock opera. And of course, I'm ongoing working with Charles on Whispers from the Void, which is the supernatural according to the female point of view. So it's all lady writers for the comic, and
I created it.
I'm like the lone male doing the artwork
And-
for it.
Interesting.
Basically, all the creatures are all monsters are reflections of the seven deadly sins. For example, all ghosts are envy, vampires are gluttony, werewolves and flesh constructs are wrath, so on and so forth. Mad scientist, which is pride, of course. But there's one mad scientist, Adonia Fleschingener, which actually means butcher, like the type when you chop up meat and stuff in German. Is a mad scientist who built her own flesh construct. But she decided, hey, why, even though we are aberrant, our natures are aberrant, what if we did good through our aberrant means? You know, would we be evil, or would we be good? Even though we eviscerate and we tear apart, we destroy and we eat and we devour and we curse and we terrify. But if the outcome is for the betterment of the kind, mankind, womankind, are we really heroes? And for her, she's pride, and that is one of her greatest new experiments.
We've got say something, Philo, so we can see that picture.
Yeah, this is in my book I Want to See, which has been out for a couple of years. And
Rise it up higher.
how's
Higher.
that?
Higher. Thank you. That's also a poster behind Ray.
Yes. Somewhere in there.
Oh, your head's blocking it. Oh, you just followed everything.
Yeah, that's just that's Idonia, Callie, Blythe, and Ruth.
Yep. So it's kind of fun. Well, it was written by Sher Bodine, who's a romance writer, and Patricia Rosemore, who's also a romance writer. And she's sold over 25 million books to date. And, you know, and Philo is going to make this his magnum opus, you know, the greatest piece. He actually collected over 97,000 photos for reference, as if he were making a movie production.
Oh, well, I actually use those for other things as well, but never hurts to have more than enough reference when you're drawing unusual things. So,
That didn't sound right, but I understand.
well, I tend to think cinematically anyway, so the book is going to be kind of like watching a movie, only in still form. But one of my other influences is definitely Dark Shadows, the Gothic soap opera from the early 60s, which I religiously watched when I was a child.
I can remember coming home from school
Yeah.
and that had to be on.
I used to sneak.
I was endeared to werewolves and vampires and ghosts after that.
For me to watch
that
it,
show.
my grandmother would babysit me, and I would crawl military style like I was a little army man from my bedroom because I was supposed to take a nap, and hide underneath the chair watching it. And when the credits started to go, I would crawl backwards and crawl back to my bed, and then pretend I napped.
So I just want to take
hyperactive, so I only need 4 hours of sleep a night.
I just want to take a second and remind everyone that there is a link out there on social media. You can check it out on my Facebook page and all the pages that we follow, neutralzonestudios.com. If you would like to, and if you could see the artwork behind me, Ashley, is there any chance that you could flash some of those images?
Yep,
Oh.
give me a second.
Flash
Okay.
images.
But if you would like to purchase and own a piece of Philo's artwork,
Woohoo!
print, and have it personalized and autographed by Philo, then take a look for that link. By the way, I love this one, and you've always done something between your animation and trying to throw in a little Star Trek. And that is definitely the Enterprise A. You can't fool me. And that's from the motion picture. And I think that's just a wonderful picture. Wonderful picture.
I love that ship. Andy Probert did a fantastic job of redesigning it for the film.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it was made by Magicom just before we got there.
And I think this one of
Maleficent.
a Maleficent on a laptop is pretty
Right.
interesting.
Spell checker, which works on a number of levels.
It's funny.
I love it.
That's a kiss to my father because he spent 6 years drawing that character.
Oh, wow. There we go.
So Ray, why do you look like a bouncer the way you're posing? You're like Bouncer Ray.
Bouncer? Yeah.
Mr. Armfold.
You know what? I'll do that. How's that? You want to know the truth?
Yeah. I feel like I need to call you sir.
You want to know the
Yes,
truth?
sir.
If I if I don't fold my arms, I have to do the Picard maneuver all the time. Pull my shirt down.
Oh no!
Oh, this was an interesting piece because it was my first big fan piece that the lady ordered. She wanted the 6 main characters portrayed together. And I thought, okay, the 5 of them, no sweat, they're all underwater. What the hell am I going to do with Prince Eric? Put him in a scuba gear? No, that wouldn't work. So then I thought about it, and then finally I thought, okay, she's going to daydream him and he'll be in a bubble. How's that? So sometimes you have to think on your feet, if that's the term.
Without a doubt.
Do
Without a
creative
doubt.
problem solving. Yeah.
I mean, these are beautiful. They're just
you.
beautiful.
Isn't it cool knowing us?
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. Now look
I'm
at this.
also,
This to me is the quintessential Little Mermaid, right there.
well, thank you.
That.
I'm also a big fan of texture, so you're not going to see a lot of airbrush in my work. There's going to be a lot of texture, a lot of rough looking color, but I really love that and I embrace it. I don't want things to be slick and perfect.
And this is the book you're working on now, Whispers from the Void.
Yeah, this is from a ways back now, but they've really come into their own, and they'll look slightly different from the way they look here because I've learned more about them, and they've become like real people to me now. So it's been a lot more smooth sailing recently.
That's an interesting, you just said something, and I'm going to come back to it in a second, but I just want to, again, show the folks who are watching what's available for purchase. But really, this is just a small smattering of what you take with you on the road. And you've got like 2 giant books, at least 2 that I know of, that are just filled with this animation work.
Yeah, I think we're up to 5 now.
Oh.
And Charles has 2 of them.
Is he giving them? Is he giving them back?
Two books. 2 books of your work.
Yes.
and this is what we were previously in. This one, what can you
Yeah.
say about this one?
This one is called. This one was originally done. Instead of Scotty, it was the man that commissioned it. Was in the background. His name is Gregory Stone, and this was done as a premium for, as a gift for, or a premium for our Kickstarter supporters when we put together my book, I Want to See. So the deal was that the finished piece would go in the book, and that he would get the original drawing and several prints for himself. And I took it back and I added Scotty in and offered it as a print. So I thought people might enjoy it. It's Ariel and Sebastian, of course, and Flounder on board the Enterprise. And I ended up calling it New Navigators. So
I wonder if Shatner has seen this.
I don't think so, but Vic Mignogna certainly has a copy of it.
I have a copy of it.
And you have a copy of it.
I have a copy of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, you certainly do. But it was great fun to do. I just love the show so much. It literally made my childhood. That and Dark Shadows and so many other things that were so good in the '60s. I embrace it all, and it's made me part of what I am today.
So you said something before that I thought would be interesting to ask. That we were showing Whispers from the Void cover, and you said the characters aren't going to necessarily look exactly like that now because you've learned a lot more about them. Does that happen during the production of an animation where you change direction because of what you now know about the character?
Yes, usually if it's closer to midpoint, it's much easier to go back and fix things. Otherwise, on Mermaid, for example, we didn't have that luxury because we were only given 18 months to make the film, which is roughly a year and a half. So the mandate was no more 3 and 4 years to make a movie. The new management said, you've got to make it work in a year and a half, or we'll have to do away with the animation department. So we worked very hard and long hours and did get it done in that time, but a lot had to be sacrificed, including maybe going back and fixing things we didn't think worked quite well. So there's a lot of potentially bad drawings in the film, but you have to move ahead. If you have the time to spend, then you can go back and fix things to your satisfaction. Walt Disney's first film, Snow White, they had the opportunity to do that. It did put them somewhat behind, but by the time you get to the end of the film, Snow White looks the best that she's ever looked in the film by the last few scenes of the film. I mean, she just gelled and looks beautiful. Not that she wasn't at the beginning of the film, but that was the old footage that they didn't have time to go back and fix. So that's just an example. But now that the 4 of them have, from Whispers, have gelled in my mind, they're a lot easier to handle now. They all have their own formula for drawing. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool.
And they become like real people to me. So I can empathize for them, or, and I'll put that into the work too. Whatever the mood happens to be, I'll put on some sad music or some happy music or scary music, and I'll work to that for a while. I put myself in a mood to do whatever the scene is.
Interesting. When we were showing some of the pictures scrolling by, and we had the one, and having looked at the whole series going across, when we got to the Star Trek one, New Navigators, it was interesting, and I don't know if there's a difference in style, but your characters have a distinct look about them, whether it's the Little Mermaid or whatever the character is.
That's the Philo Barnhart style.
Yeah, everyone has a
Yes. No,
a
I agree.
part
But
that's identifiable. Yeah.
right. But in that Star Trek one, the humans who were in that look very much like themselves, but very different from your other characters. Do you
Right.
find it hard to kind of move back and forth?
Oh no, no, no. If it's something I love, especially in the Star Trek, is certainly way up there in my book. Uh, it's not a problem to change gears, you know. Plus, you may have noticed I gave Ariel Yeoman Janice Rand's first season hairdo, her checkerboard hairdo.
I did. I
I said,
did.
that's going to look great with her red hair, and I was right.
That's because Philo's funny.
So Charles, what do you work? Well, we talked about the comics.
Yes.
And the whole. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit on some of what you're doing, because I think people need to know honestly that you're a person who's really out there for the people, and the idea behind the COVID story for kids really rings home, especially with and you said it when you were in the comic book store, either, or somebody said it, either where too many people wearing masks or not enough people wearing masks. So I don't know if there's anything you'd like to embellish on the story, but I think people need to know that you're a good guy. You really want to help people.
It's true. It's true. I
He's,
mean,
he's home now.
how many people do you know who can convince the government to pay you to make a comic book? It's like, thank you, taxpayers. See, I never see money from the government as, oh, it's free money. No, it's taxpayers' money. It's taxpayer money. But I thought it was very important when I was talking with the clinic, and they were they were talking about how terrified the kids were of the nasal swab. I'm like, what if I turned it into a comic book and make it a little more fun and safe, and realize it's not scary. It's just zoop in, zoop out, and you don't get your brain poked. That was the biggest fear that most
like
kids
with a lot of your things, Charles, you have some humor injected in there. So
yes. My favorite line is it turns out that two of the kids do have COVID, and the oldest kid does not because he overcame it. And the way that the vector went was the kid got it at from a friend's sleepover. His father was internationally traveled. This is backstory. The boy then stays with his aunt. The aunt gets it. When mom goes to pick up Alfred because he's all healed, everybody kisses auntie except Alfred, and everyone gets infected. So they're starting to feel something coming on, but they're like, oh, let's go test. Let's all get ourselves tested. And when Alfred is tested, he has no COVID. And the girl's like, oh, God, I can feel my boogers squishing around, and it's like, yeah, you're okay. And turns out they have COVID. Fortunately, everyone survived. It was like the best story ending. And it also talks about how important the native way of isolating and things like that, a lot of things that were just intuitive to not get sick are part of the old ways to the Native American. I thought it was important to, get that out there and share it. So that's that with that comic book. And with the other book I want to do, History of Police in America, my real goal with that is to let people know police are just like us, men and women with jobs. Yes, there are problems. Yes, they need to be fixed. Yes, they need to be talked about. But they are not objects that a stranger should walk up to and assassinate in a car. They are, people that, we show respect to them. They show respect to us. Maybe the tensions will calm down. Yeah, that's the COVID comic.
Here's the cover.
He has
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I also created, for the first time in many years, native-centric characters that ugh, I feel like throwing up. That oh, what's going on here? Why is that not on? Okay, there we go. That are going. I'll try to find that for you real quick. It's known as a two moons, violet two moons, and white buffalo man. And so by using native myths, I'm going to show you a poster real quick. So I'm just trying to find it. Secret poster going to be seen.
I tell you, Charles, that angle that
What? Oh,
you're
thinking of
filming, the angle you're filming, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in the first row of a movie theater.
Yes, you are. It's known as Horrorama. Because you're having to deal with me. But here, I'm going to backwards the camera. Look at that. Scary. So that's Violet Two Moons. That's White Buffalo Man. Versus the Wendigo. Wendigos are horrible cannibals. See? Violet Two Moons. Doo-doo-doo.
How
There you
cool
go.
is that?
Yeah. So, and I sometimes make custom soda for people and some other stuff too. And look, this is a gross bear. He's spore infected. Oh, I got spores. My eyeballs falling out. Ew. So gross. He's disgusting. That's from my other game, the Cockerel's Fist. So basically, the ultimate adventure of the Cockerel's Fist. Oh yeah, I told you that already. So I'm just repeating myself. Oh, and this is my Masonic apron.
Okay.
What? Oh, there we go. I'll put that away now. Look, board games. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up a board game. Look at Blair Witch Project. I'm scared they're witches. Oh, no, we're gonna die. It's a scary story. No, but let me find that. I'll show you the logo for Outer Planet Panic. It's kind of cool. We're going to do it all fluorescent ink and in color. Oh, that's color. But the black and white parts will glow in the dark. So just give me a moment. I got to log on. And then just scroll down. And I'm going to reverse the camera so you can see my Mac. It's my head. It's so gross. Okay, that's a Mac. Okay. But it's taking a long time to load. Why are you taking so long to load? Okay. So now I got to find J. See, go into search, J-A-Y. And now J Herd, OPP, package content, show.
Outer Planet Panic.
Yes. This is your first time speaking English?
Yeah, I generally.
It's a tongue twister for sure.
That's
Yeah,
that's a cool logo.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it, and then some of the artwork, this is going to be so cool. Oh, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Sneak peek. Wow, I want to play this game because Charles is so cool. DROP, Dropbox, and an alien from another world. Dun, 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 dun. And then what else? What else can I show this?
I especially like the robot characters.
Yeah. Oh, PP. Oh, yeah. There we go. This is like the first time ever on video, sneak peeks. So you got like ant people. Dun, 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 dun. And you notice how everything was fluorescent color? Do, 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 do. Hello, I'm an astronaut man. I'm an astronaut man too. I'm an astronaut man. I'm an astronaut man. I'm an astronaut girl. I'm an astronaut girl. I'm an astronaut girl. I'm an astronaut girl. I'm an astronaut dead. I'm an astronaut, Dad. So whatever. Okay. And so you got to go to these different planets with your astronauts, and you got to dig for ultimate devices. And you got sponsors, like you got a weird holy church. Oh, I'm a holy church. How can you say hi, buddy? We're going to work together.
So you can see they have that kind of 60s vibe.
Yeah.
Going on.
See all that, and then we got the scary stuff you could build. So it's all in the works. Oh wait, oh yeah, I got something coming. Yes, look at that. Ultimate device. So that's what's done so far. But what I might do is art direct it. So I might say, okay, this is kind of boring. I mean, well, not that. The black and white actually looks more interesting than the color. So I might have some halftone, like you notice the halftone dots that are in there. I might do a different halftone in the background and punch it up, or have his halftone done differently so it pops out. So, get more colors in that to make it pop.
Now,
And
Charles,
yeah.
is this Pascal's work?
My work, Pascal's work, and two other artists all working together.
Okay.
And you notice how I put the old dots in, like the old comic book? Dots. There are dots everywhere. We love dots.
I grew up with dots.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yep, we sure did.
Yeah.
And the last thing is some of the map. Oh, wait, not there.
Bob Kenny is online, and Bob is looking at this and said it's reminiscent of Jack Kirby.
Yes. That's
We
exactly
purposely
right.
cased after his style to honor him because Jack Kirby's so cool. And I'm like, what if we had Jack Kirby ethics, but just made really far out space stuff that super glow. I mean, how cool is all this?
Yeah,
See, all these alien planets.
The way Jack Kirby draws hands is what inspired me to draw hands the way I do.
See, astronauts.
I mean, I grew up with Jack Kirby. I didn't know them. I was a kid, but that's what got me into comics was
Right.
Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Stan.
Yes.
I mean, that was so different from the Superman DC comics.
I believe Jack was in his 40s when he finally started doing comics.
Really?
Well, he used to be a World War II guy. Like, I'm going to sneak out and draw what I see. Look, there are all these stupid enemies here. So now that I drew all these stupid enemies, it would give our boys like a chance to live because he was so good at his drawings. Now this is a secret. This is for the Cockerel's Fist. So these are the enemies that you will fight in the Cockerel's Fist.
These are so cool.
Right. We're ugly.
Tell him the original title, Charles.
It lies. But I think the ultimate adventure of the Cockerel's Fist is funnier.
There's certainly a lot more to it.
Right.
But
that's a scorpion alien. You got like
it's akin to Chutes and Ladders, isn't that right?
Yeah. Oh, too much information. But it's a dungeon explorer. But yes.
That looks like a millipede trying to say, "What me worry?"
Actually, it's called a creepy noodle. Because what do you get if you get a bunch of creepy noodles? Creepy pasta.
My favorite is jerk chicken.
Oh yeah, let me find. Oh, she's creepy. She's a nightmare peddler.
He's scary.
Yeah.
So is he.
Demons. Oh, a lunatic. That's a foul witch. Look, a jerk chicken. Mother mucker. And
no feathers.
And that's a different type of sack underneath his chin. You He's so gross. Let's see, is there anything else? Ah, there's enough. Oh yeah, look. Oh my God, Ray, how did you end up in my game?
You know, I tell you.
Ugh, these are creepy, man. Look, that's weapons. So there we go. Just some stuff. Early concept art. So
Well, it's all very cool, and you guys are. First of all, thank you guys for coming out here tonight and doing this,
Yeah.
and certainly we'd love to do this again. Reminder to the people who are tuned in, if you'd like to get a piece of Philo's art, just look for the link. I know Larry's been posting it every once in a while on the site, and in the message area. So do that. A lot of good stuff coming, it looks like. That's for darn sure. So let me say at this point, first, thank you to Philo. It was a pleasure seeing you again. This was a lot of fun.
This is always fun for us.
Well, that's great. That's great. And to think that I grew up watching your stuff. I mean, this is like, see, so now I'll say, I always say about the studio, if somebody told 12-year-old Ray Tessie that he was going to own the enterprise, I'd say you were crazy.
I
Right?
know how you
But
feel.
now I can say,
Right.
if somebody would have told 18-year-old Ray Tessie that he would meet the animator of all of these films that I've grown up watching, I'd have said they were crazy.
And then you met me. I got to run
Yes.
because I got to jump into another Zoom meeting. So
Okay.
thank you, everyone. Always remember you're loved. And please buy Philo stuff and just throw money at me and I'll make more stuff. And
Excellent.
also, please go to Ray's special studio and just donate money or throw things at him, like nice stuff, and just be good.
Charles, thank you very much for saying that. And thanks so much for being here. And really, thanks to the both of you for just being friends.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye,
for
and
having us.
thank you all.
Thanks, Charles. So just a couple of quick things. We next Wednesday is kind of an interesting session for us, a live stream. And that's if you would like to join us, you people who are listening, and tell us your Star Trek memories. What made you a fan? What do you love about the show? What series do you like? What characters do you like? What adventures did you have in real life at a convention or meeting an actor or an actress, whomever? So join us next Wednesday for that. And you'll be on Zoom. We'll put you on just like this, just like, well, maybe not like Charles, but certainly like Philo. So that would be great. And then also keep in mind that October 23rd and 24th, we're reopening the studio. We're having Halloween 2020, Fan Appreciation Holiday Weekend. So you can go to our website, neutralzonestudios.com. Right on the homepage, there's a link. It's a little different this year because we're trying to be COVID compliant and make sure everybody's safe. But we certainly, if you can make it, we know there are a lot of restrictions, and we'll try to have these on a regular basis. But if you can make it, we'd love to have you come on out and see it. Vic Mignogna is actually going to do the walkthroughs because we can't say tour. But Vic is going to do the walkthroughs, and we're going to do one every hour to a limited crowd. So come out and see everybody. We'd love to have you. And again, thank you again to Charles for being with us. Thanks again to Philo for being with us. And we'll sign off now, and we will be seeing you soon. I think I have some end credits. Here we go. Let's play the end credits, and we will. Let's see if I can do this because Ashley had to duck out. She had me holding the bag here. So let's see what I can do.
Well, 30 seconds here. Don't forget that on Sunday at 7 o'clock, we will be premiering the next episode of Dreadnought Dominion
Yes.
on Facebook. So keep an eye out for We Are One. And that was shot at Neutral Zone Studios.
Well, I also say I've seen the trailer, and the trailer is terrific. So you guys have come, when you think about it, you guys have been filming at the studio for a long time.
Well, we had a watch party last night and a few nights ago, and we watched from start to finish. I didn't make it past 10:30, but yes, the quality, the acting, and the friendships have grown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I am going to try to share my screen and play the end credits. And with that, we'll say good night. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see.